Hello, everybody. Welcome to Warrior Women Wednesdays. My name is Annie, and I am the Engagement and Operations Manager of Calling All Crows. Before we get started with this episode of Warrior Women Wednesdays, I am going to do a land acknowledgement. I am coming to you live from Chicago, which is the traditional homeland of the Odawa, Potawatomi, and Ojibwe nations. If you are not familiar with Calling All Crows, we are an organization that leverages the power of music to engage fans and artists in different movements for justice and equality. So we are so excited to be kicking off Warrior Women Wednesdays 2024 this Wednesday. This is the first episode of Warrior Women Wednesdays. And if you're not familiar, this is our returning series with the incredible Return to the Heart Foundation. If you're not familiar with Return to the Heart, they are an incredible organization that we partnered with for several years now. They provide critical grant opportunities, research, analyses, and reports, and other essential programming and resources to help Native women and girls thrive and do incredible things. And Warrior Women Wednesdays, like I said, is a series of episodes. You can find us at this same time every Wednesday in November. And it's a really awesome conversation that we're going to be viewing with Gina Jackson from Return to the Heart. And this year we also have the amazing Tiana Spotted Thunder joining the conversation as well. And I will pass it over to them shortly. But we are also going to be hearing from some other incredible Native women leaders, makers, community organizers, creators, artists, researchers. The list goes on and on and on. So there will be a few special guests on each episode every Wednesday. And we are so grateful for our partnership with Return to the Heart. I highly encourage you to check out their website, their socials, dig into their work, explore what they're up to, support what they're doing. They are such an incredible organization to know. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Gina and Tiana to talk more about their work and the amazing guests that we're going to be hearing from today.
Thank you. Uhagani, Nianadavinya. My name is Gina Jackson. I'm Western Shoshone and Ogallala Lakota. I am the co-founder and CEO of the Return to the Heart Foundation, which is a foundation created by Native women for Native women and girls. And we are just like so excited to be able to put on this series in partnership with Calling All Crows, just an incredible ally, and to lift up the voices of Native women. It is part of our work to cultivate a world where Indigenous women and girls are valued, where they are protected and supported with investing in them. Because we believe that by investing in Native women and girls, it is a pathway to champion gender justice and pave the way for thriving future generations. I'll pass it to Tiana.
Hello, Madakipi, Chantewashde na Bichu Zapi, Tiana Spotted Thunder, Imachiapi, Nala Koliata Shiogmukahoashdewi Hemie, Oglala Imataha, Nahunk Papa Makoche, Mini Shoshe, Aglagla Iktawa Tiksto, Dayawa Chankapi, na Dayaya Hipiksto, Pilamayapi. Hello, everyone. My name is Tiana Spotted Thunder, and I am Oglala Lakota, coming to you from the lands of the Hunkpapa Lakota along the Missouri River. I am an intern for the Return to the Heart Foundation and your co-host alongside Gina and Calling All Crows Foundation for Warrior Women Wednesdays. I'm so excited to be on here for this first time and this first episode as a co-host for this series. I look forward to hearing all the speakers as they're all incredible human beings who influence not only their communities, but the world with their leadership.
Thank you, Tiana. I am so excited to be here on the lands of the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe, which is a beautiful desert area in northern Nevada. If you're not familiar with Nevada or Pyramid Lake, it's about 7 hours north of Las Vegas. Today, we have some awesome warrior women who are giving of their time, of their energy, and their passion to get out the vote in this critical election. We have Desirae Desnomie, Elaine MatoTamaHecha, and YoNasDa LoneWolf, with a special message from one of our co-founders, Senator Red Dawn Foster of South Dakota. Hi there, Desirae. I'm so excited to have you on today for Warrior Womxn Wednesday. I would love if you would kick us off on talking about yourself, give us a little introduction, and we have some questions for you today, all about getting out the vote.
Dansei Desirae Desnomie Natiga Soon Papixis Otsinia. Hello, my name is Desirae Desnomie. I am originally from Papixis Cree Nation and Treaty 4 territory. I live in North Dakota now, and I am really happy to be here, really happy to speak, and really happy to lend my voice and encourage our people, our Indigenous women specifically, to get out and vote.
Awesome. Now, can you tell us why it's important for Native women to have a voice, especially in this election?
Absolutely. It is so imperative that it not just for Indigenous women, but for women in general to have our voices be heard in this election. It is there are so many things that are at stake right now, and I just think that it's just necessary that we get behind who to know what the policies are for what aligns with us as Indigenous and then just as a woman in general, and have our vote count. I think it's really, really important that we participate in this election, and we also can be. I think that it's important that we are a part of history and that we have our voice count. This is a really very important election. It's very unique, and it matters. These issues are going to affect not just Indigenous women, but women in general. And I think that our voices, it's imperative that we get out and vote and that we have our voices heard.
That leads kind of into my question, and you kind of answered it a little bit, but why else do you think it's important to vote, even if you don't love either candidate?
This is a historic election, and to have our voice count, your voice matters. As an individual, your voice matters. Your thoughts and opinions matter. If you don't find yourself political, at the end of the day, we are political. We do participate in so much of what is happening in our lives, in our daily lives, and it ends up being political. So I really, really encourage to have our voices matter. Your voice matters. Each individual voice matters. And so to know that you had participated and that you made your vote count, I think that it's so important. It's just, it's necessary.
So, Desirae, what are some strategies that people use to overcome barriers? I mean, there's lots of barriers when it comes to voting, but what can people do? Or what do people have to deal with, first of all?
I think that as Indigenous women, we often, and I'll speak for myself, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but for me, I find it daunting to be in these spaces that really aren't set up for us in a lot of ways. And historically, we may have inherited some feelings of the past, of intergenerational trauma, of just that feeling that these spaces aren't intended for our people and for Indigenous women or women in general. And so I really feel as if these barriers for us to get our foot in the door, it is actually an act of resilience. It's an act of really self pride and to break down these barriers and say, you know what, I am going to participate in this election. I'm not going to let anything stop me. I'm going to not let anything because those barriers and the things that have happened in the past, currently we have our voice can be heard today. And I know that it can be daunting to go into these spaces. And for me as well, I was like, wow, like, you know, I don't know if I don't want to be met with racism or even feeling hearing that dog whistle or just having any kind of pressure. There's under things, and we all know what we all know what that feels like, I think. And we all sort of, catch on or get the memo. And for us to be like, you know what, I'm going to figure it out. It actually is not that difficult. And once we figure that out, we're like, okay, let's do it. And so I really feel as if there are a lot of barriers, but I think that a lot of them is for ourselves. We just have to make a decision and then follow through. And it might be we're so busy in our day-to-day lives, just taking that little time out to you know what, this is important. I'm going to set in motion. If you need to register, if you need to if your state if you have to register to do that, go ahead and fill that out. And then it's pretty self-explanatory, but it is daunting because we're like, I don't know, like it is kind of I felt nervous, I felt, is this going to, for my state it's different, but which was really making it easy for me, but I felt like, oh gosh. And that was really like the first barrier. And I'm like, I don't know. But then I know how important this election is. All you have to do is look at the candidates, look at their policies, look what aligns with you, and then ask yourself powerful questions. Ask yourself what aligns with me, what do I want to see? And this is going to affect long term. We might not see things immediately, or we might, because a lot of crazy things can happen. But it does affect us. We are, whether or not we vote, we are going to be part of what happens. And let's say we have the opportunity to make history in this election. And I think it's so important that we have our voice be heard and participate in that history. You are alive today, participate in that history and get out and vote.
Yay, that's awesome words that you're sharing. Thank you. Some of the conversation that Tiana and I have been having is how do we support Native women and young people, in after the election, because right now we've had here in the U.S. more Native women elected to office than ever before in history on all levels, whether that's on federal levels, state levels, local county levels, and even within towns, being on school boards and just, being a part of, the decision makings that are happening, and where we haven't always had a seat at that table, where those decisions are being made and we're just not there. And we can hope that others will consider us, but many times they don't. So we are in a historic time. And, our conversations that we've had is like, how can we support people, and encourage people to run for office themselves, and to not just, okay, so yes, right now we're urgently looking for folks to make sure they use their voice at the ballot box. But what about, in the next year, think about it, the next year after that, start prepping for it, like some of the things to actually be the voice themselves. So we're kind of excited about that as we're going on and doing our planning. And I think, the young people today, Native populations are a young population. And, it's so important that, we plant those seeds and encourage those dreams. You may meet somebody who you would never know that they could be the next elected official. And even at Return to the Heart, one of our founders, coming in as a representative and now a senator, like, those pathways, are being opened up, for our young people today. So I'll pass it along to Tiana for the next question.
Both of you made some amazing points with looking and being grateful and all of that, but we always have to think of the future and always think 7 generations ahead and start planning for what change we would like to see in the future generations. So, Desirae, I'd like to ask you, what would you want to tell young people today about this issue?
I would say, I would suggest to our young people is to know who you are. Know who you are, know the people that you come from, to be proud of who you are and to be proud of the resilience and the history that our people have overcome to be here. For us to be here, is to understand who we are and to know where we are today, what we want today, and how we want to lead our lives that leave into legacy work. And I always say, like, what is your legacy work? And if you ask yourself these powerful questions, you'll say, when you're long gone, and let's say, creator willing, you live to be an elder, and the legacy that you leave behind, ask yourself, what kind of legacy do I want to leave behind? And for most people, the answer will be, I want to live a good life. I want to be a good relative. I want to do something good for myself, my family, my community. And when you ask yourself what it is to be like a good relative, what does that really mean to you, and how do you attain that? And a lot of the times, um, I would tell young people, I would say to encourage young people is to know who you are, be proud of yourself, and know where you want to go. The legacy work that you want to leave behind, start working on that now and start stepping forth. Don't be too afraid to step forth. A lot of time we are our own worst enemies that stop ourselves from stepping forth, and we're like, oh, I'm shy. Oh, I don't know if I can do this. Oh, I'm unsure. We might have stinking thinking that stops us from our own potential, and our ego gets in the way, our shadow beliefs get in the way. And what I'm saying is to, like, get over yourself, step forth anyway, and step forth every single day to make little, like, you could be little steps or it could be leaps to towards your goal, towards using your voice, towards finding out who you are, to be proud of where we come from, to know who we are today, and then to do the legacy work in the future. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? And ask yourself that powerful question. And oftentimes it's probably not going to be something, I'm sure all of us want to do good and be a good relative while we're here. So how do we get to that point of that legacy work and have that at the forefront?
Awesome. Thank you. So much wisdom in all of that. I just appreciate you being here and sharing and inspiring and encouraging folks, not just the young people, but all of us. And I just want to just give you a big hug. Thank you for being here.
Ah.
Hi, Elaine. I am so glad that you're with us today, and so glad that you are one of the Civic Engagement Fellows for Return to the Heart Foundation. It's so important for the on the ground, grassroots, roll up your sleeves, work to be done. And we are so proud to know that you are one of those people that's making a difference, and anything that we can do to support you and all of what you're doing is basically our honor. But as we go ahead and kick off this interview, I'm going to pass it to you to just introduce yourself.
Okay, all right, awesome. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Land acknowledgement, really quick. I am in the beautiful Black Hills of South Dakota, home of our greatest warrior, Crazy Horse, and the land of the Oceti Sakowin. So I want to say good morning to everybody. My name is Elaine MatoTamaHecha, and my Lakota name is Eagle Feather Woman, Wiaka Wambliwi. And I am Oglala Lakota. I'm originally from Allen on the Pine Ridge Reservation, and I've lived in Rapid City for a couple years. I formed a grassroots organization called Oceti Sakowin YoNasDa LoneWolf, a couple friends, and our goal was to address issues that the natives deal with in Rapid City. One of them is to, I guess, basically help them get on their feet. And so we're hoping to apply to be a nonprofit organization so we can do social service work with everybody that's struggling. And one of the issues that we identified was voter suppression. And to address voter suppression, we wanted to do voter registration to all of the reservations in South Dakota. And so to take it a step further, we created a fun, I call it a fun sibling competition between the tribes. And it's called the Great Race to the Poles Challenge. And basically use the storyline of the Great Race around the Black Hills, where the two-legged versus the four-legged, they raced for dominance. And so in this race to the polls, it's all of the 9 tribes in South Dakota racing each other to the polls. And the tribe with the most votes from precincts on the reservation will be dubbed the baddest, awesomest tribe in South Dakota. So it's for bragging rights. But in the end, we stand together. Our voice is one, the indigenous people in South Dakota. And so to do that, we went to all 9 reservations to do voter registration. So from September 17th, and yesterday was the last day I finished in Standing Rock. We started in Pine Ridge, Rosebud, Yankton Sioux, Flandreau, Santee Sioux, Sisseton, Wahpeton, Crow Creek, Lower Brule, Cheyenne River, and Standing Rock. Been to all 9 reservations, all so receptive and eager and excited, to be part of it. But we're doing this in 3 phases. So the first phase is to do voter registration. The second phase is to do voter education. And the third phase is to get people to the polls. And so in all of the districts, we keep track of of who we register and if they need a transportation, so we can connect with the people in their community to help them get to the polls. Or if they did an absentee ballot, was able to do absentee ballot. I am a notary, so I carried my stamp around, and I would only use it whenever they actually get the voter the absentee ballot. So anyway, our whole goal is to we have to be we're, what is the word, partisan. We can't be for one candidate, or we can't promote anybody. It has to be strictly nonpartisan, just getting the people to register and then getting them prepared to vote. So that's what we did this past month and a half. And gosh, it was quite the journey, but it was a good journey. And before we started, I visited with one of my friends, and she told me she was looking at the history of Sitting Bull. And she asked me, she said, did you know that your ancestor came from Canada with Sitting Bull? I said, my ancestor? She said, yeah, MatoTamaHecha. And I didn't know that. So it was really nice, at the end of this tour, because I went back up to Standing Rock a second time to go get more voters registered. And the people were welcoming. I told one of the ladies the story, and she said, well, you came home. You came home. And I'm like, and it was I felt completed after I finished at Standing Rock. I felt like I've made a difference. And so I guess when I came back to the Black Hills, I had come full circle, just making this big circle, through all of the reservations, and then coming home. So last night it was like, finally could breathe. And I mean, it was nice. It was a feeling of completion. I'm like, and I slept good last night, and I slept in my own comfy bed, and yeah, it was quite the experience. And so I'm grateful that things worked out, so we were able to do this. The Oglala Sioux tribe, when they accepted our challenge, they took it a step further, and they challenged all the tribes across the US. And I can send you that. It was on the President Star Comes Out's Facebook page, where he challenged everybody. So now, so for people who don't know what that means, it's like, now, get everyone registered to vote and get to the polls. So we're on phase 2, do the education part. And I'm going to visit with Tom Casey, KOLC from Oglala Lakota College. They invited us to come down, and I think we're going to go down on Thursday to go do the education part. And then at some point get on Kiwi Radio, But on the 25th, I believe that's Friday, we're going to St. Agnieszka University in Rosebud to do the education part. And we've invited Sitting Bull College and Sisseton Wahpeton College to zoom in and connect with us. Also Cheyenne River. So it's just, everybody just trying to connect all of us. So we're like all the tribes are under one network, all of us are doing our part to get people to the polls. And this is a paramount election, and so that's why and one of the messages that I shared when I was on KIPI in Eagle Butte, the message was that I'm doing this because when I was a little girl, maybe 8 or 9, my grandpa had big potato farms, big potato field, and after we got done, we would sit and have a sandwich or water and just be, And he always spoke Lakota, but this time he spoke English, and he said, never sell your land because the government is pushing us up a hill, and when we get to the top of that hill, it's a cliff. And if you sell your land, where are you going to live? He said, there's going to come a day when we're going to have to pay to live on our land, so don't sell your land. So I'm like, oh, okay. Little 8-year-old, So here I am all these years later. And I'm like, oh God, that feels like, I need to do something, and so that little girl in me is like, all right, let's go, just took her hand and come on, let's go on this journey. We're gonna go do something. And making it known that when we vote, we need to vote like our sovereignty depends on it, So I took this task on because I have children and I have grandchildren. They can't speak. I'm their voice. I look at my grandfather, who's no longer here, who would have been 113. He don't have a voice. His father before him didn't have a voice. I'm that voice, So I do this for our ancestors and for our future. And I'm really happy that I made that decision, but it was through prayer. Everything I did was I prayed about it. I went to Inipi, went to ceremony. So I have to go back and do a Wopila, and probably this weekend, do a Wopila ceremony, because everything worked out, everything came together for us, so that's my story.
It's amazing. And I'm so grateful for you.
Thank
and
you.
all you're are doing and have done, and your amazing heart.
Yeah, okay, Wopila for being you and everything that you've done and everything, all that footwork. I know that our people, Oglalas, we're always boots on the ground kind of people. We just go and get things done, especially women, and you just remind me so much of my aunties and all the things that they do, my grandmas. I mean, it's like it just makes me feel so comforted at home listening to you, and and you're such a good grandma, such a good auntie and mom, and everything. And the same time, taking care of your home, and taking care of your prayers like that. And we're just so honored to have you to do this amazing work, and we're really happy to support you too. And I just wanted to say that, and Wopila again for coming on, and good luck with everything else you're doing, and we're supporting you and backing you 100%.
YoNasDa, welcome to Warrior Womxn Wednesdays. We're so happy that you could join us today. And this is just such a critical time with elections coming up. And I know that you have been a really big get out the vote, advocate, and, very involved, not just in your state, but just really getting that voice heard on a national level. Can you introduce yourself for our listeners today?
Yes, my name is YoNasDa LoneWolf. I am Ogallala, Lakota, and Black, and I am a national community organizer, activist, and a mother, a momager to my great son, and most importantly, you all sister are part of this amazing organization and always just always willing to be there for everyone, fighting for justice and freedom and equality.
It's been a long battle, but hey,
Yeah.
we're here.
Yeah.
Tell us what's happening in Georgia, where you are.
Yeah, so Georgia, battleground. This is a battleground state. I think we have seen Trump come through here at least about probably more than 5 times in this entire year. Harris just left here. Trump just left here too. Like, they are out here. Because this is a battleground state. Right now, there is about close to 3 million people that have already did early voting. This just goes to show all of the boots on the ground, all these organizations that are knocking on doors. I mean, just canvassing, registering people to vote. And now everyone is knocking on doors and saying, hey, did you go vote? So everyone is out here now. Looking at the statistics that just came in, we don't know where this is going to go. We're seeing predominantly white men as in regards to the early voting. And then we're also seeing a large amount of women. So we do not know where this presidency is going to go. We don't know if it's going to go for Trump or if it's going to go for Harris. And it's just one of those things where it's like, you see slander from both sides. You're seeing a lot of misinformation that is happening in regards to where is everybody's, what are they fighting on, what they said they're going to promise us, all these different things. And so, I think what it is that everyone is just really trying to just share what's, this is the policies. I was with a great organization called Black Voters Matter. We just did a major block party, which was phenomenal. We did a karaoke night, which was really, really great. But on the information, because a lot of these organizations are bipartisan, on the information was, these are the policies of Harris and these are the policies of Trump. And it was like we was giving out these information so everyone can be able to have actual facts of whoever they want to vote for. And so it's just, this is the battleground and we're all boots on the ground. We registered a lot of people to vote. It ended 2 weeks ago. So now I went out to go vote, and I saw when I went, I'm in Henry County, which is the capital of the KKK. Right. And today it is about very diverse county. And when I went to the polling station, it was Harris, and I saw Trump signs. It was very equal. And and it was a long line. So I don't really know where we're going to go in regards to the state of Georgia. Even when in the Native American community, like the Muskogee, the Cherokee, we don't have reservations here. What I learned when I moved here and connected with a lot of the local leadership and things like that, there is not a federally recognized tribe. There is a state recognized tribe of Cherokee. But a lot of them, very strong Republicans, and when we look at the history of Georgia, of the 5 civilized tribes, they were fighting. I always say, like, they didn't just like, oh, let's just own slaves and let's just civilize. No, they were fighting. But after years of fighting and after many series of Trail of Tears that was happening, they was like, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and conform. And a lot of the descendants of a lot of these chiefs and from these bands of the Muskogee people, a lot of them live out in the outskirts of Georgia. They live on that fine line of Georgia, Florida, and they are very strong Republicans so I don't really know where we're going to go with that. And then even here, there's over 60,000 indigenous people from that live in Georgia. And they are, whether they're from tribes of South America, Mexico, or whether they are indigenous to United States, but we do have a large population of indigenous people. And I don't even know where that's going to go, because even as I'm going through Gwinnett County and all of that, I'm just seeing Trump Harris. I'm seeing Trump and Harris signs. So we'll see.
Yeah. And I'm in a battleground state as well,
Yeah.
Nevada.
Yeah.
And same story in my own community, lots of flags. But, one of the things that that a lot of folks don't necessarily know is that at one time, Republicans were very supportive of tribes, and like my grandparents and, that generation, were Republicans because they were being supported.
Yeah.
And, as time went on, things changed and got mixed up. And, this whole two-party system is, I think disturbing for a lot of folks because, it's not either or. We are whole people. And,
Mhm.
as the first people of this land,
Yeah.
every time I hear about this immigration and, the strengthening the border and all of that, it's like, well, who are the indigenous people to this land, right?
Yeah.
To this continent?
Yeah.
It's Native, Native Americans, people who are native to this
Yeah.
continent.
Yeah.
Whatever line was drawn, they're
Yeah.
native to this continent. They're
Yeah.
not from a different continent coming in.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were their DNA is from this land, up
Yeah.
and down, north, south,
Yeah.
Central America,
Yeah.
all the Americas,
Yeah, it's like what a lot of the Mexican activists they say the border crossed us, we didn't cross the border, and you're right. We were many of indigenous people, Black people were Republicans. There was just a certain values and there was a lot of support around that, but not until the 80s, with this, and we understand Christendom. Which is a difference of Christianity. Christendom is that different, that superiority, that white Christian colonial construct, and we understand that firsthand. And that's what came in with through with the Republican Party, which was like, no, we're going back to white colonial construct, that same of Christianity, the same thing how they did the values of the KKK. And that was the division. And that's when we was like, hey, wait, what is happening? We don't see ourselves being represented anymore. And it became very divided. And so, I just posted on social media because I just learned. I did not know. And since I'm in the South and I'm learning, coming from Arizona, coming from, Pine Ridge and even Chicago, and I'm learning the Southern history, but I did not know that Black people was paying $2 to vote all the way up until, and this was in all the way up to 1960. There was these women that was in Alabama, and they said, we're voting because we don't have to pay $2. And they were actually showing their receipt of them paying $2 to vote. And what I learned is that many Native Americans had to do the same thing. They was paying to vote. Now, we don't know if even the vote even went in. We don't know if they just pocketed the money, So when we're talking about our right to vote, it's the fact that it's a certain freedom that if we're talking about 1960s, 1970s, I was born in 78. This is not long ago. We now have the free, we could vote for free, but there's certain places in the Southern region that we have to still go out and tell these elders, hey, you could go vote for free, just even in 2024, we still have to let them know that they could vote for free.
That's so alarming and eye-opening to me, just because of the fact that, even us as citizens, we weren't actually citizens of this country until like World War I, or, because like the ones that went off to war from our tribe, they were able to become citizens. And then, it took so much to just have a voice. And, earlier we kind of had like a little conversation about like anxiety and things like that. That's all a part of the historical trauma that we keep reliving, and it's hard because that affects our mental health. And because you kind of to me like epitomize and you emanate wellness and health and things like that, because you have overcome so much in your own journey. I would really love to hear from you some like coping skills or any kind of encouragement to help maintain your mental wellness during this time, because I know this is a very stressful time for a lot of us right now. So I'd
Yeah.
love to ask you that.
Yeah, and I'm still applying it. You know, that healing is a journey, it's not a destination, you know. And I think that one thing I love is that the foundation is walking that red road, you know, and connecting to land. So anytime that I'm feeling like, for instance, and I don't know if I'm gonna trigger some people here when I say this, but when Biden we just came back from the Navajo Nation, and which was historic. It was beautiful that he apologized. You know, it was beautiful that a sitting president finally apologized for the treatment of the Indian school, the Indian boarding school. And my mother was a victim of that. I know many of you all have family members that was a victim, or even yourself, you know, Gina, that probably might have been, because I think it was all the way to 1993, right? In Arizona or somewhere.
Yeah, I had friends who went to boarding school, but I didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
All my grandparents, all of them.
Yeah, and I know, I think it was in Arizona. It was, I think it was Central Indian School of Central was all the way to 1993. They had that boarding school, you know, and that treatment that was happening. I feel I'm indifferent on how I feel about that, and I got and so I had to have a woosah moment. I feel indifferent because thank you, President Biden. But it's when I started going through of every time a sitting president came to Indian country, and it was right before an election. And I think it was, yeah, right before election or literally right after election, if they saw our votes mattered, and then they come. You know, I know that Obama went up to Montana. Trump went out to, you know, I believe he went to Navajo Nation, I believe, or he went somewhere, but you know, everyone, Clinton went up to, I believe he came up to Pine Ridge, but I know that he gave us all of the Wi-Fi, the phones, you know, we were so excited about a phone. But when I look at all of that, we're still merciless Indian savages in the Declaration of Independence. Why hasn't that been an executive order change? We like just that alone. You want us to honor you, but the declaration that you are sitting on, that you vow, saying this is what I believe in, is still, we're still 3/4 human on paper. In that Declaration of Independence, in that, you know, we're still not even full human. So I don't care what sitting president, what ex-president, if you are in a position of leadership of this land that we're on, you know, of these new rules that are not originally our rules, you know, we've been saying rescind the doctrine of discovery, because that is the foundation of our land ownership. That is the foundation of our sovereignty that we still can't fully exercise because of that doctrine of discovery. We've been saying rescind it, you know, and they still have ignored us. So and I looked at all of the things that Biden has done for Indian country, right? Those things was all the way across the board. They had to give out money to the infrastructure. Of course, you're going to have to infrastructure the tribes that are in these places, because all of America, that money for infrastructure was for all of America. And then whatever the residue money, oh, you know what? We have to hold accountable for this amount, give it to the natives or give it to the merciless Indian savages. That's just how I see it. And I don't feel, and this is probably the Ogallala in me, because you know, Tiana, my sister, we're warriors and we are, you know, and the aim in me, but no, I could do less with your apology, because we still are not equal. Because if we were equal, your Declaration of Independence would change that. We're still not even full human. The only reason they came to Arizona is because we flipped the state. Myself and so many other organizations was like going out, the native vote matters. And we showed America that we know how to flip the state, so they go straight to Arizona. They didn't go to South Dakota. They didn't go to Nevada. They didn't go to all of the tribes and all the other places. They went to the place where they're like, oh, they're voting. Why do we matter when we're voting only? We should matter at the beginning when they're talking about Black, white, Latino people, Asian people. We're the other. We're the other all the time. And I'm tired of us being the other. I'm tired of us being the afterthought. So even with that healing concept, and I'm circling this back around, even with that, because this is generational hurt. This is generational trauma. This is generational. I feel it all the way to all the way down to Red Cloud of that pain that I feel, that I still feel today. You know what I say? Tagashala, it's yours. I know that the First Nations of this nation, we are found. You got us. We're going to be heard because we're still here. I have to remind myself of the lineage that I also come from, that even that all of my nieces and my nephews still have that warrior, that fearlessness, because that fearlessness is also healing. That confrontation, sometimes we think running away is healing. Sometimes that confrontation is healing too. Not sometimes, a lot of times. That confrontation, because you're telling your truth. So when I have that moment and I'm like, I have to say this and take it off of me, they deal with it. They know now it's their responsibility. Then I go outside. I'm in Georgia with these beautiful trees. You all came and saw all these trees. And I go, I ground myself. I take my shoes off because I can't get home to South Dakota, but everywhere my feet lands on is home here in America, everywhere. So I ground myself, I burn my sage, and just the smell of that sage, that sweet grass, and I'll play a song and I'll just, and just like, okay, let me, I give this energy and I'll omit it to the creepy crawlers or anything that's coming to visit me. I don't care how cold it is. I have to go outside because I realize when you're outside and you're looking at these massive trees and you're looking at anything that is just bigger than you, it could be a tree, it could be, a deer that you see, it could be whatever you see. You're like, you know what? My problems are bigger than me. My problems are bigger than me. I cannot change the world in one day because it's too big. My hands are too short to box with God. And those are those moments that I have. And when I created Revolutionary Healing, it was always outside. And we was outside freezing. We still was like, this is great, but we're cold. But we still was finding the healing in that coldness, and we still was finding the healing just being outside, because you realize this universe is way too big to hold on to these things, and so that's my advice.
Well, you are making a difference. Maybe it's not the whole world, but it's all the parts of the world that you do touch are making a difference. So I thank you for that. And I just appreciate you so much. The things that encourage me are when I look at the last census in 2010 and see us at 2 million, and I look at 2020 and we're 3 million. We are growing. When I look at there are more Native women in office at all levels, county, state, local, federal, all levels than ever before in history. We've been waiting for people to come make changes for us, and change has been slow. But you know what? Now that we're getting folks in there, representation in, for us, by us, that's making a difference. And, even, with this whole road to healing, folks were listened to, and we got a long way to go. The thing that really kills me too is Indian. That was a mistake. We're not from India. How is that federal law? How can in child welfare? We're not Indian. So regardless of the feds, I'm not saying it anymore. I'm done.
Right. No, you're right. You're absolutely, and that's that Shoshone in you. So that's another warrior tribe.
But I'm Ogallala too. My grandpa
exactly.
came from Pine Ridge. I stopped in Reno and met a girl.
Right. So it is that, and you're absolutely right. And This is why it's important that our unity, especially amongst us tribes, are so important, that we begin to start thinking, who is going to be the person we're going to champion to be president?
Yes.
That's what we have to do. You know, one thing I do love about my Black side is the way that, man, Black folks organize. To see that the way that Black women came together to raise money and to get on this call with, I was on that call. It was thousands of Black women that said, we're going to push and donate to be able to get Kamala, you know, as president, you know? And so that organization of that was so phenomenal. I think that Indigenous women, we can be able to do that, to be able to push a Native American into becoming president that believes in our values, that believe in those red road values, and believes in representation and our sovereignty. And so I believe it can happen. And I'm not saying in regards to my children's children. No, I believe we can do that now, because I'm seeing the way that we are mobilizing on voting and elect in politics. You know, even though we have our own tribal politics, but it's time for us to be able to circle around and do United States federal, like everything, you know, and I believe we can do that as well.
Yeah, you're so right. And like, I just admire your bravery so much. You say everything that's in my mind. Like, you're never scared to say a thing. And like, I don't know, I'm just so glad we had this conversation today. And, you know, I think that I'll walk with your words for a long time. And I believe that our listeners, our viewers are gonna definitely love what you're saying here too. And then I'm thankful too. This is my first episode that I'm on, and when I get to interview you, you know, my relative, and you know, it's so cool. So you know, thanks again. Thanks Wopila Tanka Ichiche for coming on and being with us today. And I, you know, take care of yourself. We're all really doing our best here, and you know, I'll keep in touch with you and keep up what you're doing online, and listening to your songs and things like that. So,
Thank
okay,
you.
Wopila,
Wopilan, Doksha.
Doksha.
Bye. Hi, Red Dawn. I'm so excited for you to be here today. This is such an important time in history, an important time for our people. And we are excited that you are able to share on Warrior Womxn Wednesday and to tell us what's on your heart and what's on your mind. But before we get started, would you mind just giving us a quick introduction to yourself?
Oh, Madakyapi, Chaje Chapi Redan Pastri Machapi, Chate Washtana Pichi Zapi. Hello, wonderful to join you today virtually. Red Dawn Foster, I am Senator from District 27, the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota.
Thank you. And we just really appreciate you taking the time. We know that this is a very busy time with so many different events happening, and, you know, just boots on the ground, really trying to, you know, get out there and get our people excited about voting. You know, one of the things that I'm hearing a little bit about is, you know, folks who have a little bit of apathy. And what kind of messages would you tell those folks?
Oh, yeah. Right now, I think that it is something that we're struggling with right now, but your vote is so important, especially at the local level. One story that I like to tell everybody is in 2018, when we first ran, both Representative Pri Puyer and we had another Democratic Native female running mate who ended up losing by 2 votes. 2 votes. Had just 2 more people, actually 3 people, gone out to vote for her, then we would have made history. We would have had 3 Native female Lakota legislators in South Dakota, and which is a super majority Republican. And so, you know, having a Democratic Native voice there matters on a very exponential scale, because 1, South Dakota, 2, that there's nine tribes here, and at the state level, it really is just us legislators that are able to make sure that our worldview is represented and our voices heard.
Yes, that is so important. We've been waiting, for centuries for folks to come and stand up for us. And the bottom line is we have to stand up for ourselves and for our people. And so that's one of the reasons I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, what would you tell our young people who would think maybe it's not that important to vote?
Our young people, it is so absolutely important for our come informed, become engaged, and organized. Our worldview is so important to be represented there. And as Indigenous people, we cannot just be cultural and just be spiritual, but we also have to be political. That was one of the things that Professor Hanani K. Trask had taught me when I was in Hawaii, is just how important representing our Indigenous voice at a political level. And we're, as Oshete Shakoi or the Oglala Lakota Nation or other nations, that we are political entities. So we have to maintain that sovereignty that we hold dearly. We have to make sure that we're informed, we're engaged, and we are political, and making sure our voice is heard, because everything that has affected us has been through law and policy. The Allotment Act was an act of Congress. The boarding school, the residential school policies, all law and policies that affected us dearly. And those types of law and policies, those continue to affect us to this day in different ways, as well as current law and policy of funding and everything that happens in our state that affects our daily lives. That has to do with making sure that we have a political voice, not just a tribal sovereign voice, but a political voice that is represented in the state and in the nation.
Yes, absolutely agree. I mean, what would the world be like? What would the US be like if we actually had representation? It would look very different than it does now. So we have
Yes,
hope.
because we do hold a very unique worldview and the connection to our homelands that no other people hold. And so it's not just our right, but it's our obligation. It's our obligation to our ancestors who fought so hard to make sure that we exist till this day, and to our future generation to make sure that we know how important it is to have this connection to the land, to make sure that our laws and policy affect that affect us and affect our lived experience, also have our well-being embedded. And the only way that we can do that is to vote and to make sure that our voice is heard, because our representatives, like in a lot of states right now with this presidential election, will be the determining factor in these elections. And so the Indigenous voice is going to be very, very important. And the next 4 years can determine the next 50, 100, 500 years of law and policy. So we need to make sure that our worldview is represented.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for taking time, even though you are on the road, and we totally understand and support you as a Native woman, as a visionary, as a fighter, as a warrior. And we just want to say, appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Wopila.
Incredible. That wraps today's episode. Thank you so much to our incredible speakers who joined us today. Thank you to Tiana. Thank you to Gina. And huge, huge thank you to Return to the Heart Foundation. Follow us online at callingallcrows.org, and you can find us on social media at callingallcrows. We are super excited for today's episode, especially speaking about Get Out the Vote efforts, as Calling All Crows has really been pushing that with our Voice Your Choice and Amplifying Democracy campaigns this year, really connecting music fans to make a plan to vote and research their ballots and feel informed and empowered when they go to the polls. So thank you so much for being here, Gina and Tiana.
Yes, thank you. We have had such a fun time today. And to learn more about Return to the Heart, please check us out on our website. It's www.return2heart.org and follow us on social media. This is one part of a plethora of programming that we do, and so it's so important to really stand with us and support Native women and girls because we are bringing in the future.
And don't forget to keep following our programming every Wednesday in November. Join us every Women Wednesday to stay inspired, learn from our many incredible, amazing speakers, and to learn more about our org, what we do, and who we help, who we serve, and all the people that are helping doing amazing work. So Pilamaya Biksto, thank you all for joining us today.
Go vote, Den, sis.
We'll see you next Wednesday, everyone.